Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Michael, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables and sponsored by Analyst Depot. I am one of your hosts, Ashley. This is my lovely co-host, Michael. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. This week has a lot of chaotic energy, so it's a very weird week. It's a Friday the 13th this week, and then a full moon on Monday.
Wow. Some people are in for a weird weekend.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking weird. I'm talking like the kind of people that think they're like born from like Wiccans and stuff. Like they're going to have a weird weekend. So that's exciting.
Well, brace
kind
yourselves.
of excited now.
Just brace yourselves.
I didn't know about the full moon thing. So that's exciting.
Friday the 13th and a full moon on Monday. Crazy.
We should just move Halloween to this weekend.
Could you imagine?
No. Well, I mean, we canceled Halloween in COVID year, so.
We did. We also canceled Halloween in New York once because we had a really bad snowstorm on Halloween.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah, so they canceled Halloween. They moved it back like a week.
I thought you were going to say a hurricane. I never understood that. I don't think you can reschedule Halloween. Like, I understand why why governments are like, yes, kids can get their candy next week. But like, that's so dumb. Nothing would hurt me more as a child than being like, we'll do Halloween next week. Like,
I can picture you.
I'd rather not do Halloween. You
waited like 3 weeks, like in your like Spider-Man costume, like hanging in the closet and like ready for Halloween to be there. And then they were like, let's do it next week. It'd be very sad.
Honestly, in that scenario, I would be excited that I could wear my Spider-Man outfit for another week. So
that's true.
I got that going for me.
Very true. So in case you're just tuning in, this week is Halloween. We changed it.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. We'll jump right into it because we do have a good amount of news. I'm just going to kind of fly through it. If you have anything to add or you want to discuss one, just cut me off. Okay?
Happily.
Okay. The schedule releases tomorrow. We got two bigger news games that have already been released. We have a Monday Night Football doubleheader in week 2 between the Titans and Bills and the Vikings and the Eagles. And the Broncos will play the Rams on Christmas Day. We have a couple of big signings. Sony Michel signed with the Dolphins on a 1-year, $2.1 million contract. He joins Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, Myles Gaskin, Salvon Ahmed. They're stacking that backfield and kind of have no idea what they're planning on doing with it. Mike Davis was released by the Falcons and then very quickly signed with the Ravens on a 1-year deal. I couldn't find the exact number, but then like 2 days later, he had $100,000 worth of jewelry and this like special cleats dedicated to his dad stolen from his house. But also the Ravens also parted way with Tyson Williams. Lot going on there.
They're idiots. They should have parted way with Tyson. He should have played last year. That's all I'm going to say.
He really should have. Kyle Van Noy signs with the Chargers. He joins Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson as offseason additions to the team. He was released by the Patriots in May to clear a little over $4 million in cap space, and I don't have details on his new contract right now. The quarterback Nathan Peterman signed to Chicago on a 1-year contract. He takes over the spot from Nick Foles. He joins Justin Fields and Trevor Siemian. James Bradbury was released from the Giants. It saves $10.1 million in cap space, half of what his cap hit would have been. The Giants are still trying to fix Dave Gettleman's mess. And it's
to be honest, that was probably Dave Gettleman's best signing.
It was his best signing, but it's his mess because the cap was a disaster. Every other signing was a disaster. It's to note that former defensive coordinator Patrick Graham is with the Raiders right now, and that seems to be a frontrunner for where Bradbury may go. Josh Lambo is officially suing the Jaguars over the Urban Meyer incident from last year. He's seeking $3.5 million salary that he missed, plus damages for emotional distress. That was when he was sitting in a lunge position. Urban Meyer walked up to him, kicked him in the leg, and said, "Hey, dip, bleep, make your bleeping kicks," and kicked him in the leg. He said, Lambo said to Meyer, "Don't bleeping kick me again." And Meyer said, "I'm the head ball coach. I'll kick you whenever the bleep I want." So he's suing.
A lot of bleeping in there.
A lot of bleeping in there. You would yell at me if I didn't bleep it. The Broncos,
I didn't even end up editing last week. I just marked it as explicit because I didn't feel like it.
Good. The Broncos price tag is expected to be more than $5 billion, which would be like the biggest price tag on a team selling. Dan Ventrell is no longer the president of the Raiders. It was announced, I think, Thursday of last week, something like that. But there is like drama heating up around it. He was serving as the interim president. He claims he was fired for reporting a hostile work environment. He told Mark Davis about the issues, that Mark Davis was dismissive, said it didn't warrant any concern. He passed off those concerns to the NFL, but shortly after he brought it up, he was fired. He says it's in retaliation. He stands by his decisions. Mark Davis said that he's heard about what Ventrell said, but he won't comment on it. The exact thing says, the only thing I want to make clear is that Dan Ventrell was never president of the Raiders. He has always been the interim president. He was never named president. Interim was always a temporary designation to determine whether he would be the full-time president or not. I want that clear. He is not the president of the Las Vegas Raiders, never was. Drama.
Yeah, that can get interesting.
Yeah. Drama. Big news. Tom Brady signed a 10-year, I'm going to say the number that's been reported, but Fox is disputing the number, but not telling us the real number. 10-year, $375 million contract with Fox Sports as a game analyst for, quote, when he decides not to play anymore. So whenever he decides, they're just going to like walk him off the field and right up into the booth.
I mean, I'm also curious about whether, and I've seen some people discussing this, about the idea that he could possibly maybe even do post-season games if his team gets eliminated. So it'll be really interesting. Like, does that count toward his 10 years? Is he just going to get, like $90 million for doing a single game because he's him? Who knows?
Who knows? Richard Sherman is close to closing a deal with Amazon as one of their broadcasters. I think they have which night now? They have one of the nights. Is it Monday night?
Monday. Wait.
Amazon.
What? Thursday.
Okay. Amazon has Thursday night football, and Richard Sherman is close to landing a deal with them. No numbers reported or anything. Jarvis Landry is receiving interest from the Ravens. Rappaport said this week that Landry turned down a 1-year deal worth a decent amount of money with the Browns, looking for something a little bit more than 1 year. Kayvon Thibodeau, the New York Giants first-round draft pick, paid current kicker Graham Gano for his number 5 jersey. He donated $50,000 to Puppies Behind Bars, which is a weird name for an organization, but they do awesome things. They provide service dogs to wounded war veterans and first responders, and in addition to explosive detection dogs for law enforcement.
I love puppies.
I know. I knew you were going to like that. Buck says they are using this coming year as another, quote, redshirt year for Kyle Trask.
Just tell us you messed up and you suck. What do you mean another redshirt year? Oh, my God.
I don't know. My favorite quote of the week was Robert Saleh saying Zach Wilson looks, quote, beefy in a good way. I had to put it in there as news because I had to say it. Oh, God. Come
on, man. Did he hit puberty or something? Like, what do you mean?
Honestly, probably. He left BYU and like was fine with the church, said you can have puberty now.
That's a fair point.
Lewis Kine is having some drama with the Bucks. He says the Bucks promised to take him at 27. He didn't say the Bucks, but he said at pick 27. He said they told him they were 100% set on picking him. He was promised that they would pick him and then didn't tell him and decided to trade back. He said he was kind of hurt by that, felt lied to, cheated, I guess. Yeah.
That's interesting. I feel like this kind of thing, you see it in basketball sometimes, but I feel like you never see it in the NFL. This is the first time I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, I am sure it happens a lot, but draft picks don't usually say that. You know, like, you don't usually come out.
Well, I think normally if you make a promise, it's kept at least.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's
and it's not even like the Bucks, like somebody fell that far. The Bucks decided to trade back.
Interesting.
Very. And then one of my favorite news stories to come out lately is that Sam Howell says he only eats chicken. He has never eaten a burger or a steak, won't eat seafood. He orders chicken tenders at steakhouse and brings his own tenders to team dinners. And I love that because I am somebody who only eats chicken tenders.
Great. So you're like the one person that likes this.
I love it.
I will say
Like,
they're doing him
literally
dirty.
my
They're doing him dirty by saying that he's never had a burger or a steak. Like,
favorite.
just say he's a pescatarian, and nobody is making
Yep.
this big of a deal about it. Like, because when
Yeah.
I read it earlier, I was like, "Yo, that's weird," and then
Uh-huh.
I remembered I was like, "No, it's just a pescatarian. Like, it's not that weird.
Yep.
Like, I mean, it's weird, but like, it's not that weird if when it has a name. I don't know. Just
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
Whatever. Moving
And
on.
then I'll breeze through these really fast. I know some of them are fully guaranteed, but I don't have them noted as fully guaranteed. I forgot to finish those notes. But some of the first round rookie contracts have come out. Lions signed Aiden Hutchinson for $35.7 million with a 23.1 signing bonus, fully guaranteed. Jets signed Ahmad Sauce Gardner to $33.5 million. Panthers signed Ike Ekwonu to $27.5 fully guaranteed with a $17.2 million signing bonus. The Eagles signed Davis to $17 million. The Chiefs signed McDuffie to just under $14 million, and Karlaftis to just under $12 million. The Packers signed Walker to $13.8, Wyatt to $12.8, and the Vikings signed Kine for $11.5 million fully guaranteed. Yay. That's
Congrats,
that.
draft picks.
Thank you. Yay. Kine ended up going in the first round. He was the last pick of the first round. And he's signed now, even though he won $200. Anyway, same as last week. We're going to jump into the NFL draft, but this time for AFC teams. And we're going to rate them on a scale of thumbs up to thumbs down like we did last time. Because that's the most scientific way to do it. And we're going to roll with it. So, which division would you like to start off with?
Let's just go in the order we have. So AFC North, I believe, is that that's first.
Yeah.
So let's start with the Cincinnati Bengals, the reigning AFC champions. They only made 6 picks on the during the draft, which is tied for like 4th fewest, I believe. And I have to say, to start out, Daxton Hill, safety / defensive back. Depending on where you look, I know some places have him maybe being a little more like he might be like a slot cornerback or like a box safety. I'm not really sure. But he's got size. He has speed. I think he ran a 4.38. Maybe he plays a little bit of outside corner. He's certainly a chess piece that they're going to be able to move around. And the guy that they got in the second round, Taylor Britt out of Nebraska, definitely more cornerback, but has played both safety and corner. So they're both, I think, really solid picks for a team that already had a pretty decent secondary and a defense last year. But yeah, I mean, I liked both of those picks a lot. It was really after that where I didn't have a ton of thoughts. I mean, I don't really think you're really getting anyone after that that's really going to make too much of an impact anytime soon. I think you're just looking at guys that are coming in at somewhat strong positions, edge rusher, defensive line, safety, that down the line, when you have to pay Joe Burrow a crap ton of money, you're hoping that these guys are going to be able to kind of take that step forward. If, you might have to lose some of your bigger name guys at other positions to free agency. But yeah, I mean, overall, I don't think they got worse. I think they definitely got stronger in the secondary. But I think that's really the majority of the day one impact we're going to see.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this team is a super young team that all of their contracts are going to come due at once. Like the bill is going to have to get paid at once. So adding depth to these positions where they already have an inkling that they're going to lose players is something they needed to do. An interesting stat I saw between Daxton Hill and Taylor Britt over the last 2 seasons, they combined only allowed 5 touchdowns in coverage, and they combined had 6 interceptions. So pretty good.
That's more interceptions than touchdowns for those of you counting at home.
It is. 6 is greater than 5.
That is true.
Math.
So I'm going to give them a single like thumbs up, maybe like kind of bending down a little bit. It's hard to, they didn't have a ton of draft picks, and that always makes it a little tough. But that's always kind of a good place to start. And next up, why don't you take us to the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, so the Pittsburgh Steelers did go in the direction everyone expected them to go in the first round. They did go quarterback, but after a couple of weeks of this cloud of Malik Willis that they pushed on everyone, they decided to go with Kenny Pickett. I think that was their plan all along. Hometown guy from Pittsburgh, gets to stay in Pittsburgh, but they did go quarterback with the 20th pick in the first round. They decided to pick up two other wide receivers, George Pickens in the second and Calvin Austin the third in the fourth. They added some depth to the what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. But those are my big ones anyway. I was like trailed off. But yes, they George Pickens slipped down a little bit further than he would have because of injury last year that he was coming back from and a little bit of off the field issues, it seems. But again, Pittsburgh does often take players like that. So they didn't shy away from taking him. And they're very good at picking wide receivers in the second round.
The big difference between them and Dallas is Dallas can't handle the people that they take with off the field concerns. Meanwhile, you've got Mike Tomlin, who coached Antonio Brown for 9 years, and we never heard a peep out of it. For that reason, I love George Pickens' landing spot. He was one of my favorite wide receivers pre-draft. I love George Pickens. As anyone in my C2C league, Campus to Canton league, knows very well. Hashtag Team George Pickens. Did not know he had a torn ACL, and I picked him, but that's okay. Because here I am talking about football. As for Kenny Pickett, he's not my favorite quarterback in the draft, but honestly, I vowed to myself pre-draft this year that I was just not going to stand firm behind my quarterback opinions, really. Like outside of like, you know, what I think they might be good at or bad at, like who's going to be good, because I'm never right. Because the NFL doesn't get it right half the time, and they've got people that are paid millions to do this kind of thing. So
and
going to a place like Pittsburgh where he's already comfortable. Exactly. But going to a place like Pittsburgh where he's already comfortable and with a very established franchise in general, I think that's probably as good of a situation as you can ask for if you're Kenny Pickett. And they got some solid guys in the later rounds. Connor Hayward, his brother's on the team, and Calvin Austin, I like, a wide receiver out of Memphis. So they will get a thumbs up from me.
They also get a thumbs up from me. And I feel like again, Kenny Pickett isn't my favorite from the draft, but I like him in that system more than I thought I would, if that makes sense. Like
that's
envisioning
very fair.
It. All right,
I often envision Kenny Pickett. So the Browns did not have a first round pick. They also did not have a second round pick. But they did have 3 thirds, 2 fourths, and 2 sevenths, along with a 5th and a 6th. They did take a kicker in the 4th round, which is awesome. You love to see it. In reality, it's probably pretty stupid, but I still love seeing it regardless. But yeah, I mean, the majority of this draft was sent towards Deshaun Watson and getting who they hope is their franchise quarterback. Off the field issues be darned. So yeah, I don't know. They traded back a couple of times and they were able to amass a larger amount of picks where when you don't have the higher picks, at least you're getting a lot of shots. I think my favorite pick from them is David Bell, wide receiver out of Purdue. He was a guy that I liked a lot pre-draft. I think I liked better than consensus for the most part. He was a very young standout performer at Purdue. He probably outplayed Rondale Moore a little bit. More than people might be willing to admit. But they took him in the 3rd round, and I think wide receiver is a huge need, and I think they got a really good value out of him in the 3rd. I mean, Emerson is tall, but a below average athlete. I think he was probably a little bit of a reach in the 3rd round. And I mean, cornerback is kind of becoming a concern for them, even though they just signed Denzel Ward. But behind him, they've got question marks. So I don't know. I do kind of like Perion Winfrey, defensive tackle out of Oklahoma in the 4th. I think he might be a disruptive interior pass rusher kind of from day one. But overall, given it was good maneuvering considering the assets they had, but they're still only going to get like a half a thumbs up or like a thumb midway, a 0, a dash, a not available, a did not test for me because, I mean, they traded out for Deshaun Watson. That's really what it comes down to.
Yep, that was their entire draft. I do love the David Bell pick. And I was, if you didn't bring him up, I do like Parham Winfrey there. I do think he is someone who can make an impact on day one. I give them just the same zero, like a null sideways thumb. But we can move on to the Ravens, who in the first round walked away with Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum, which is like a steal to walk away with both of them. Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, and Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa. Tyler Linderbaum was like some of the most highest. There was a lot of fluctuation on where people expected him to go. Some people expected him to go a lot higher. Some people expected him to go way later in the first. But the Ravens got a steal at 25 with Linderbaum, in my opinion. They ended up drafting 11 total players, so they walked away with a big bag of them. Added some depth. They added a running back in the last round for a little bit of depth, but again, they just picked up Mike Davis. A tight end, a couple of offensive tackles. I do like their draft. The second round pick, David Ojabo, the linebacker from Michigan, loved him. I think that's a great pickup for them too. The Eagles jumped in front of them at one point for Davis because they thought Ravens were going to take him. But all in all, I give this Ravens class a solid thumbs up.
Yeah, I mean, they had 6 fourth-round picks, and they actually made all of them. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they were the first team to take a punter. They took Jordan Stout out of Penn State.
Yeah.
I just think that's fun. Shout out Penn State. But yeah, I mean, I think if you put them in a lie detector, they probably wish they got Jordan Davis at 14. He's just like the most he's just the most Ravens player in this draft. But if there had to be a second place, it was probably Kyle Hamilton. David Ojabo is great because, you know, he's probably actually going to need a redshirt year while recovering. This is a good place to do it. And they got a lot of guys in that fourth round that can probably help them pretty early on. They drafted 2 tight ends in the fourth round, which was really interesting, in Charlie Kolar and Isaiah Likely. So it'll be interesting to kind of see who slots in there behind Mark Andrews. But yeah, they just got a lot of really solid players, and I think they'll be my other 2 thumbs up.
Yep, I
for
like
me.
it. Also, while you were saying that,
Good job, Ravens. But they did trade away Hollywood Brown, and that sucks.
Yes, we forgot about that. We did forget about that. But
Yeah.
while you were saying that, the former 49ers and Giants wide receiver Dante Pettis signed a 1-year deal with the Bears. So good for you, Justin Fields. Happy for you.
Hey, they also signed another wide receiver like 10 minutes ago. I swear, and I don't remember who it was, but I think they're really figuring it out now. Tajay Sharp also signed with the Bears. So woo, problem solved. So moving on. We both have the Ravens as the clear winner in this division, right? I'm going to take that as a yes. We are now going to move on to the AFC East, and let us start with the reigning AFC East champions, the Buffalo Bills, who had 8 picks in this draft. And overall, I think they walked away with a pretty good draft. I want to start by saying they did draft the punt god, Matt Ariza. There we go. Matt Ariza out of San Diego State. That dude can punt like 90-yard bombs or something, which is always exciting. Do you think that he can break the NFL record for a punt?
What is the NFL record for a punt?
I believe it is 98 yards. Wow. I was wrong about that. Why did I? It is 98 yards. I'm going to have to come back to this because I'm not sure what I was thinking of. Randall Cunningham has some punting record, and he kicked like a 90-yarder, and for some reason I thought it was him, and I was going to throw out a fun fact about an Eagles quarterback not doing a quarterback thing, but here we are. Anyway, moving on. They drafted Kaiir Elam, a cornerback out of Florida, who I think was a really solid pick. Maybe a little bit of a reach, but, you know, they moved up to get him. I think they really thought they needed him. He was a really solid cornerback out of Florida, and I think they really needed someone opposite Tre'Davious White. So yeah, it's a premium position, and he ran a 4.39, so hard to really complain about it. James Cook in the second round gave them a pass-catching running back. Maybe it'll save Josh Allen from taking a few hits during the season if he's able to just dump it off to James Cook, because Devin Singletary doesn't really profile too much as a pass-catching running back. But, maybe part of that is really just due to them not throwing to the running back. I guess this year will kind of tell us a little bit more about that. And also, Khalil Shakir, wide receiver out of Boise State, they took in the 5th round, who I think is interesting. I like him, but he's probably not going to do anything too crazy right away. Maybe he slots in there as probably the 4th wide receiver, but I don't think he'll be overtaking Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs anytime soon.
Yeah. Oh, it's Gabe Davis season. I'm so excited. Yeah, I do like the Khalil Shakir. Did I say that right? I was on the wrong screen. Khalil Shakir. Yes, I said that right. That pick, I do think it adds a little bit of depth to that room. While there is a lot of talent, depth kind of fell off a ledge there. I think it adds like a good little midway. The Kaiir Elam pick, their 1st round pick, got a little bit of hate because he seems to be a little bit of a work in progress. And usually with your 1st round picks, you're not looking for someone who's a little bit of a work in progress. But that team did help develop Tre'Davious White. So a lot of people are like, give them a little bit of slack. Maybe they know what they're doing. So I don't know. I like it. I give it
I'll give it a solid thumbs up for me.
I'll give it a crooked thumbs up.
And by the way, Randall Cunningham has the 3rd longest punt in NFL history at 91 yards. So
there we go.
Yep.
There we go.
Fun times. Moving on, would you like to tell us about the Patriots?
I can. The Patriots shocked absolutely no one by trading back in the 1st round. They made their first pick with
they shocked everyone.
And then they shocked everyone. They said, "You were ready for a surprise? Wait for it. We're gonna take Cole Strange, from Chattanooga." Everyone was like, "What?" Made no sense. And then in the 2nd round, they took Tyquan Thornton from Baylor.
Say that again for me.
I honestly think I typed it wrong because it didn't sound right.
Tyquan.
That's what I said.
You did not say Tyquan.
I swear I did. Maybe
you're arguing with the person who can actually go back and look at the audio. You threw in an extra syllable. You're like Tyquan.
Maybe we also are having a lag here, so
I don't have a lag on my side. So
literally, what? I have a lag. It's getting better though. Let's see, what else did they do? They did grab another quarterback, Bailey Zapp from Western Kentucky in the 4th round. That was before a couple of the other picks. What's his face was drafted after that?
Yeah.
Right.
Corral was drafted in the 5th round.
Yes. Yeah. So that one was like a little bit of a stunner. They also grabbed a running back in the 4th. They had 3 4th round picks. They grabbed a running back in the 4th, Pierre Strong Jr. from South Dakota State.
I love Pierre Strong.
I love him too, but they're collecting running backs.
That's what they always do, though.
I know, but there's 50.
But they always do it. They always do it. And honestly, it sucks for fantasy, but that's the right way to run an NFL franchise. It's not drafting Sony Michel in the 1st, obviously, but it's how you should do it. And I love Pierre Strong, and I'm actually really intrigued by him for fantasy because he got 4th round draft capital. But I loved him pre-draft. I was very excited when I saw his name get called. And also, Cole Strange that was just weird, man. I don't know what they're doing. If it wasn't Bill Belichick, people would be demanding that they get fired. They fire someone. And Tyquan Thornton, that's a weird pick too. I don't know. Thumbs down for me.
Thumbs down for me.
If it works out, great. But dude, you could have just waited around and gotten Cole Strange.
Did you see the clip from the Rams? I think we talked about it last week, that they were they were doing a stream, and Sean McVay was while the Patriots were picking, oh, come on, we watched all that film on Cole Strange because we don't pick until late and we expected him to be there in the 3rd.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, it's Bill Belichick. Like, I get it's Bill Belichick, but at what point do we start saying, is this man okay? Like,
now,
is everything okay?
now apparently.
Yeah. But they added a little bit of depth where they needed to, but still very weird draft.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we can kind of just roll through this one very quickly. The Miami Dolphins were sitting at home watching film on Tyreek Hill. They made 4 selections. Nothing really to write home about, to be honest. Tyndall, who was a linebacker at Georgia, didn't start a single game in college. But he still played a lot but he still played a lot of snaps and had a decent amount of tackles last season for that Georgia defense. Tyndall, he was also very athletic, so like kind of a high upside 3rd round pick. I don't really hate that at all. Yeah. I have very little thoughts on Eric Ezukanma, wide receiver out of Texas Tech. Yeah, honestly, like as a draft as a whole, it's like 2 thumbs down. But when you add in the Tyreek Hill thing, it's probably just like straight sideways. Yeah. Because you got Tyreek Hill. Congrats.
I agree. Did you see them getting flamed on Twitter today?
Oh, because whoever runs their Twitter account tried to get away with something, and they clearly did not get away with it. They tried to throw look at this look at this dime from Tua, and it's like that was a duck. Yeah. It went like 20 yards, and Tyreek Hill he looked like he was returning a punt.
Yep. He had to stop short, run backwards, and it wobbled in the air, and everyone was like everyone flamed them on Twitter. They were like, poor social media guy. But we can move on to my clear winner of this.
Wait, real quick, sidetrack, because I have ADHD.
Okay.
You were just using the word flamed as like making fun of, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. So I have never heard that being used as in that way. Like it's just not, I guess, slang where I grew up.
Yeah.
But a friend of mine, one of my roommates from college, it was either him or his twin brother. I'm pretty sure it was him. He was on an Animal Crossing forum back in like 2003. And he obviously, some kid pissed him off and he started saying a bunch of crap to him. And he got kicked off the forum for flaming. And he didn't know what it meant. And no one else knew what it meant. So that's to this day, that's the only time I've ever heard the word flaming in that context. So I felt the need to bring that up because now I've heard it a second time. So starting to wonder if you were on that forum and possibly in charge of it.
Definitely not, because I was one of the people who wanted to buy a Nintendo Switch and Animal Crossing to play it for the first time ever during COVID. I had never played Animal Crossing. I haven't played it ever. I never got a Nintendo Switch. But yeah, listen, this happens all the time. You've taught me Philly slang. Not weirdest slang.
We have one. It's John. It's just a noun.
So weird.
That's it. It's just a noun.
Did you watch Abbott Elementary?
No, I haven't yet. I want to.
I
know. I really want to.
I didn't know.
It's
Old
kind of on my to-do list.
Old head is a Philly slang.
That's a Philly thing?
That one in there. That's a Philly thing.
Oh.
There was one whole episode. There was one whole episode where they were teaching the elementary kids how to use the Philly slang.
Oh.
Like as it was. You have to watch it. It's really good.
Well, yeah. Now I'll have to.
Okay. Anyway, our winner, I think yours too, but definitely mine of this division, I think, is the Jets, who in the first round walked away with 3 picks in Ahmad Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson falling, they traded up to grab Jermaine Johnson. They had 4 and 10 in their pockets already, but they traded up when Jermaine Johnson was still there at 26. That was the best first round, I think. I think the Ravens were another great first round, but I do think walking away with
they got 3 players that you before the draft, if all 3 of those players went in the top 10, you wouldn't have been surprised.
Exactly.
And they got them all in the first round. So
yeah, and they only had to trade once to get one of them. It was incredible. And then they topped it off by taking Breece Hall in the second, the running back from Iowa State, and hometown kid Jeremy Ruckert in the 3rd round, tight end from Ohio State. I actually know someone who knows Jeremy Ruckert. He grew up in New York on Long Island. Great. The videos of him getting the call. You know, he posted a whole bunch of videos of like his dad hysterically crying because they grew up Jets fans, and Jeremy Ruckert got to stay home and play for the Jets, which was really cool. But
Garrett Wilson's an Eagles fan.
We talked about that. But
He's not on the Eagles, so
7 picks, and I think I like every one of them. I mean, the 2 4th-round picks, I don't have like much of an opinion on, but their first 5 picks, I love every second of all of them.
This reminds me of a draft that I would do when I was like playing Madden.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't make any picks after the 4th round because I just gave up on scouting those prospects. So I would just trade all of my picks up. And they did that. And Joe Douglas has done a great job since he's took over in 2019. Good. And I think the only scary thing about this draft is walking away without a really, you took Max Mitchell in the 4th round, tackle out of Louisiana, but you didn't really do anything to help the offensive line.
Yes.
So if Mekhi Becton doesn't work out or bounce back, like that's worrisome because you need to keep Zach Wilson upright. But you did a lot of other things to help Zach Wilson. So Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are going to be huge. And I think Garrett Wilson might have been my favorite wide receiver in this draft. So yeah, I think they had a killer draft. So yeah, probably like 2 thumbs up for me.
2 thumbs up for me and the winners. I texted you on draft night and I said, oh no, I'm not ready for 4 years of Wilson to Wilson. It's going to drive me crazy.
Yeah, I'm already confused by it, honestly. Every time someone mentions a Wilson now, I have no clue who they're talking about. And that's just because I'm stupid, but like, I work with what I got. So
hey, I started compiling this list on my phone of things that I think of that should be implemented as NFL rules. And one of them is that if there's a player in the draft that is the same name as a player, so like Josh Allen was in the league and then Josh Allen is in the draft, that you have to take them on your team. That's one of my new rules.
I don't like that at all.
I love it.
Sounds horribly.
You could just like collect a whole exactly.
That's like Steve Smith and Steve Smith New York Giants, except only one of them got classified because the other one was good.
Oh, that's my rule. I'm keeping it.
If you said Steve Smith, you were talking about Carolina. You were only talking about the New York Giants one if you were saying New York Giants Steve Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, he was on the Eagles too, so...
Listen, the Josh Allen game was one of the most fun things I watched that season.
I hated that. I still hate it.
Every time
they would... one bit. Don't like it one bit. Let's move on.
I love it. Okay, let's move on to the Titans, the winner of the AFC South last year, and lost in the first round of playoffs. They walk away with pick number 18 in the first round, Treylon Burks, the wide receiver from Arkansas. They pick up a lot of Malik Willis in the 3rd. Was a great pick, one of my favorite picks they made. The 22nd pick in the 3rd round. Added some depth with Kyle Phillips late, but Petit Frere, it's a French, I don't know if I'm saying that right. The offensive tackle from... Yeah, exactly. From Ohio State, I think that was a great pick for them. They addressed a lot of concerns throughout. Like you could see they picked so many different positions. I like that for them, diversifying a little bit rather than just stacking it all. I think their first four picks were pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah, they get like a massive 2 thumbs down for me. I cannot make sense of the trading AJ Brown thing. Like,
yeah, that
I don't know what you would. Why draft a player in the first 2 rounds at a premium position, have him perform like a top 5 player in the league at that position, to not pay him?
Yep.
Like, okay, fine. If like I get it, you're resetting the clock. Now you don't have to pay Treylon Burks for 4 or 5 more years. But then what are you doing this year?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? Why? Like, Ryan Tannehill is still under contract. Derrick Henry is still under contract. They did not get better as a team during draft weekend. I would say they arguably got worse. And they took a 3rd round pick on a backup quarterback and a 4th round pick on a backup running back. Like, yes, Treylon Burks, I like him a lot, and I think he's probably going to produce very early and probably play pretty well because there's not a lot else going on there in the wide receiver room. But they're in this horrible position of not fully going for it, but also not rebuilding. And I think that is the stupidest thing that a franchise can do. And I say that
saying of bad teams stay bad. Like, you can't win if you just stay stagnant.
But bad franchises stay bad. Bad teams get better because they trust the process. Like, excuse me while I talk about the Sixers again on an Eagles on a Jesus Christ, a football podcast. It's been a long week, but the Sixers said we aren't going to be good enough by being the 10th to 20th best team in the league every year, because we will never get a great player in the draft. And this is much more true in the NBA draft than it is in the NFL, for sure. But they said we're never going to get, a star player. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to trade all the pretty good players that we have, and we're just going to suck for like 6 years so we can take our shot. And yeah, the NBA is different than the NFL, but I don't understand why if you're already paying Ryan Tannehill, I don't see why you just don't go for it one more time. You were the first seed last year, and now you're not going to be the first seed. You're not going to be the best team in the AFC because you got worse and other teams got better. But also, it's not like you're building towards something either. You're going downwards. I hate it. I hated their weekend, and I feel very bad for Kyle Larson, a Titans fan. Even though I like some of the players they got, and maybe in 5 years I'll feel better about it. But I don't see the point of doing that right now.
Yep, and the thing is, it seems like nonsensical because the entire reason, like, it's not like you were getting rid of AJ Brown and getting a different type of receiver. You got rid of AJ Brown because you didn't want to pay him, and then drafted his perfect comp in Treylon Burks, right? So it's not like you were trying to diversify your offense or change things up. You were just trying not to pay him, and now you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either like sell it all or buy it all right now. And I agree with you. I like their first 4 picks, but their weekend in total I do not like.
Yeah. So I'm probably being a little harsh on their draft grade as a whole, but I'm more so just saying whoever's running this sucks.
Yeah, makes sense. Tell us about the Colts.
All right. The Indianapolis Colts, they drafted this weekend. They did not have a first-round pick. Do you remember
why? Draft this weekend.
You're right. Do you remember why they didn't have a first-round pick, Ashley?
Carson Wentz?
They traded for Carson Wentz. How did that work out, Ashley?
If I can recall, terrible.
Yeah, they didn't make the playoffs. They're half the reason the Eagles
because
have AJ
they lost
Brown.
to the Jags.
Hey, unless it was a big brain move to get AJ Brown out of the division into the Eagles.
Oh.
Then, I don't know. But anyway, in the second round with their first pick, they drafted Alec Pierce, wide receiver out of Cincinnati, who I think is interesting. He's a pretty good athlete. He ran a 4.41. He averaged about 18 yards per reception in college. And then the guy that got in the third, Jelani Woods, was one of the most athletic tight ends that was available in the draft this year. So honestly, I know he's not Mo Alley Cox, but both those guys have a certain amount of juice that I don't really think that the Colts have had recently outside of Jonathan Taylor. Like T.Y. Hilton's taken a step back, obviously. I love Michael Pittman, but he's not that outside deep ball kind of guy. And I think that Pierce will kind of sort of slide right into that T.Y. Hilton role of like being a deep threat and being able to really open up the middle of the field for Michael Pittman, who I still kind of expect to be that number one wide receiver. Bernard Raymond, offensive tackle out of Central Michigan, fell to the third round. And I think that's just a really solid pick. Another really good athlete. Like they had one of the most athletic drafts in terms of like they just drafted athletes. And I think generally speaking, that's a good process. Unless you're the Eagles a couple years ago, then it might have been a good process, but it didn't work. So go Colts, I guess. A solid thumbs up for me.
Solid thumbs up for me too. I love the Bernard Raymond pick in the third. I mean, before the draft, several analysts had him going at the end of the first. He could have first round talent, and you got him in middle of the. It's not even like it was the beginning of the third; it was middle of the third. I like Alec Pierce because I think he can fill in. I think they have a lot of holes and need someone who can diversify their wide receiver room a little bit, and I think he can just plug those holes in the ship that they have right now. All in all, like I said, solid thumbs up for me.
Tell me about the Houston Texans.
Yep, it is my turn. The Texans with their first round pick, pick number 3. The Texans, who everybody said needs all positions, drafted Derek Stingley in the first round with the 3rd pick, the quarterback from LSU. Great pick. He got chosen over Ahmad Gardner, which was a huge surprise. We were texting during that, and we're fairly surprised by that. I love Derek Stingley, but you took a little, like, it depends what you're looking for. I think he's a great fit on the Texans. The more I read about him to the Texans, I like it. Their picks, through their first 4 picks, I do really love all of them. They got Kenyon Green, the guard from Texas A&M, Jalen Petrie.
Traded back to get him.
They did. And and got Jalen Petrie in the 2nd round, the safety from Baylor, and John Mechie in the 2nd round, the wide receiver from Alabama. I started to fall off on knowledge with a little bit of their later drafts. I do know Christian Harris. Another great addition for them. I do think they tackled a lot of the needs they needed to meet. Again, this is another one that didn't just add a lot of depth. They just filled a lot of need rather than going for depth in positions that they had.
I mean, it would be hard for them to really go on for depth, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think
it is.
I like Dameon Pierce, the running back out of Florida that they took in the 4th round.
Yeah.
I will say I like John Mechie, but he felt like a reach when there were other guys still on the board, and they traded up to get him. I don't really get it. I think he's going to be fine for a long time, but I don't think you needed to trade up and give up 2 4th rounders to get a fine wide receiver. Like, I'd rather take a big shot on a guy like George Pickens.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That one doesn't really sit right with me on a team that, like, why wouldn't you just be drafting for upside? Like, you've got nothing to lose. So
yeah, I think they picked their upside, right? Like, John Mechie does have a decent amount of upside. I think he has a fairly safe floor too. But again, a team that needs a lot of positions, I could understand just keeping your 2 4th round picks and going for the upside there in 2 players rather than 1 and play a little bit of numbers game. So I don't know. I give it a thumbs up.
Thumbs up for me. Now moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, man, they had to try and screw this up, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did. They did. They had 2 first-round picks. The first one they took Trayvon Walker. Fine, whatever. I don't know.
Measurables.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm so sorry, Doug. I'm so sorry. Then they decided to take a linebacker later in the first round, Devin Lloyd. Okay, fine. Not exactly a premium position. Fine. You know what we're going to do in the 3rd round? We're going to take another linebacker, Chad Muma. Yep, okay. That sounds like a great idea. They took an offensive guard and a center in the earlier in the 3rd round, Luke Fortner. Man, I don't even have much to say about the very specific picks. But Trent Baalke came out and said you can never have too many guys at linebacker. Are you a moron? I mean, sure. You know where else you can't have too many guys at every other position in football?
Yep.
Linebackers should not be your top priority when you won, 4 games in the last 2 seasons?
Yeah.
That's a horrible strategy. It's terrible. They began the draft with 12 picks and made 7 of them. And they are a bad team.
I get the logic. I get the logic if you're a different team. If you're a good team. I get
you're saying you get the logic. If I get the logic of jumping out the window if I'm on the 1st floor, but I'm on the 5th floor. I will die. There is no logic. You understand the logic, and I'm not mad at you. But there is no logic. You don't understand the logic because there is no logic there. They said, we got to be a couple players away, clearly, after having the 1st overall pick in 2 successive drafts. Let's trade away our picks, make about half the ones we had, and take some linebackers, gosh dang it, because you can never have too many linebackers.
Yeah.
Idiots. And they could be good players, but they're idiots. The Jaguars suck, and I feel so bad for Doug Peterson, and I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence. The only offensive skill position player they took is Snoop Connor,
I was just
a
about to
running
mention
back.
him.
And
I
they
just about to
already
mention him
had
as Gold
Travis
Star.
Etienne and James Robinson. They shouldn't have taken Travis Etienne. They had James Robinson. Trent Baalke is a moron, and I hope that his nose itches constantly for the rest of his life.
I hope both sides of his pillow are warm. Just a little bit of a gold star because Snoop Connor is a cool name. We played this game last time. A little bit of an asterisk because it's a cool name.
3 thumbs down.
You have 3 hands?
3 thumbs down.
Okay.
We're moving on
to the Chiefs, who had an interesting draft. It kind of started out a little weird, then saved itself. Very strange. First round, they ended up with the cornerback from Washington, Trent McDuffie. They ended up with George Karlaftis, the defensive end from Purdue, and Sky Moore was probably one of my favorite picks they made, the wide receiver from Western Michigan in the second. Added some much needed depth at corner in the later rounds, a couple of extra skill position in Isaiah Pacheco. All in all, I like their draft. They added Justin Rawson undrafted as an undrafted free agent. I know we're not really kind of going over that, but that was a player.
No, but that's big.
That's a big one. Yeah. So
I love Justin Ross. I'm really sad.
So Justin Ross did go to the Chiefs in free agency. But again, I think they tackled a couple of their positions of need, and I really do like their first 3 picks. I mean, I could understand not taking McDuffie in the first, but I really just love Sky Moore, and that kind of like saved it for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't like their draft very much. I don't like Trent McDuffie. I just don't. He's small. He's not long.
Yeah,
he's
and that's
not what I want.
He's
not what I want in a cornerback. George Karlaftis is fine. The issue I have with him is I don't know what his upside is necessarily. I think he's a very safe player, and I think that's fine. But I have more of an issue with the only pick in the first 4 rounds that they spent on offense was Sky Moore.
Yeah,
and that's cool. But it's a lot easier for Patrick Mahomes to overcome a bad defense if he has players on offense. And I'm not fully convinced right now that he has players on offense outside of Travis Kelce. Like, Juju's fine in theory. I hope he's healthy, and I hope he can go back to what?
I forgot he was there.
Yeah, exactly. And then they have Sky Moore, rookie, and they have I keep wanting to say Dorial Green Beckham, and that's clear. The wide receiver from Green Bay, speedster. You're not going to help me, are you?
I'm lost. The only name I have in my
free
head,
agency.
The only name I have in my head is Byron Pringle, and he left.
Nope. Yep, they signed this guy in free agency. Okay, it's fine. You can look that up while I keep talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like. I think they drafted for volume. They had 10 overall. They had 10 total picks, and I think some of the prospects they got were fine, but I walk away disappointed. I mean, they traded up for Trent McDuffie. Who?
Marcus Valdez-Scantling.
Yes, Marcus Valdez-Scantling. That's why 3 names. Dorial Green Beckham. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Valdez-Scantling. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not thrilled, really. Yeah, I
didn't think about it that way until you mentioned it. And I do like again, I expected them to go several skill position players in the first handful of picks they had. And like you said, there's only Sky Moore. I feel like they would have benefited from an approach that was more throw everything at the wall and see what sticks after losing a very unique player like Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
But like I said, I really love Sky Moore, and I can't help it. But they could have used more than more.
Funny.
I didn't mean it like that at first, but then I had to finish it.
Whatever you say.
Okay.
The Las Vegas. I think that was technically your turn, even though I ended up talking for longer.
Okay, so I'll go, and then you.
All right,
go.
Fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So the Las Vegas Raiders walked away.
Oh wait! I give it a middle thumb.
Agree.
Because I'm sure someone out there is keeping track, and by someone I mean absolutely no one. All right, Raiders.
Las Vegas Raiders hosted our draft, did not have a pick in the first 2 rounds. Their first pick was in the 3rd round.
Well, they got
26th
Devontae
pick in the
Adams.
3rd round. They did get Devontae Adams and gave up those picks for Devontae Adams. They walked away with 6 different players. Some standouts. Their first pick in the 3rd round was Dylan Parham from Memphis. Zamir White, the running back from Georgia, in the 4th round, I think was good, and I understand them adding that. They added 2 defensive tackles in the 4th and the 5th, added another running back in the 7th. So I can kind of see where they were addressing big areas of need. But again, I don't even know if running back is like that huge of a need, but Zamir White adds something to that room.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't pick up the 5th-year option on Josh Jacobs. So this
I forgot. Yeah, they didn't pick up anybody's 5th-year option, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's. That's right.
And Josh McDaniels does come from the tree of liking to use multiple running backs. So I think that's interesting to note and something to keep an eye on, especially as camp comes around.
And I like Zamir White as a player. I think he could make a difference on that offense. You know, is it going to be something absolutely huge? I don't think so, but I think he can make a difference on the Raiders offense.
Yeah, and outside of running back, every pick was used on the line of scrimmage of some sort, which I never have an issue with. Overall, I mean, the actual draft is like a middling, but, you know, you throw in Devontae Adams and you give it a thumbs up because Devontae Adams is one of the best wide receivers in the league. So kind of hard to be too upset about that.
Yeah, and we talked about some at the beginning. We talked about some of the players the Chargers added in free agency already. Tell us who they took in the draft.
Yeah, so the Chargers at 17 overall took Zion Johnson, a guard out of Boston College, who I think was a smart choice because they are protecting Justin Herbert. And that is the right way to win games, is by protecting your quarterback and hitting the other team's quarterback. So I think that's, you know, he has some versatility. He played some left tackle in college as well as left guard. Obviously, I think he translates more as a guard in the at the NFL level. He allowed per PFF, he allowed only 3 sacks on more than 1,000 pass blocking snaps. He didn't miss a single game in 5 years, so that's good. A solid athlete. It's a really boring pick, but I think something that's probably going to be very important for the Chargers, especially after what they did in free agency and how close I think they are. The one thing surprised me is they did not draft a single wide receiver. I think a lot of people had that as a need for them. I didn't as much. I thought that they really believed in the guy that they took in like the 3rd or 4th round last year, whose name is completely escaping me because not doing well with names tonight. But, you know, between that, signing Mike Williams and having Keenan Allen, it just didn't really feel like a massive issue to me. But yeah, I mean, it was a really boring draft. They took a couple cornerbacks late, you know, just throwing things at the wall, seeing who's going to stick, along with JT Woods, a safety out of Baylor, in the 3rd round. I mean, I think really they're maybe a player away from having a very, very complete roster. And this was a very solid draft for an already very good team. So boring, but thumbs up from me. Yeah,
I agree. And the 2 players they had, another PFF college stat was that Zion Johnson and Jamari Slayer combined allowed only 10 pressures in 2021. So adding those 2 guys is something that adds a lot of strength to offensive line. Chargers last year also drafted Rashawn Slater, so they're committing themselves to protecting Justin Herbert at all costs. And I think it's a great thing. He's a guy who can very clearly be your franchise quarterback, and you're close. In theory, there's still a long ways to go, but protecting the quarterback first, I will always support those decisions. So
also, the wide receiver they took was Josh Palmer last year in the 3rd round.
I was going to say that next. They pull up their depth chart. Yep. And I do like Isaiah Spiller, the running back from Texas A&M.
Oh, I forgot they drafted him. Yeah. That's a good pick. A really good compliment to Austin Eckler.
Exactly. And it's protecting Austin Eckler too. You know, he's what, 26 now? 27. So he's starting to get old by running back standards. And a guy like Austin Eckler, you want to protect at all costs, take the workload off of him just a little bit. I love that. I give the Chargers a thumbs up.
All right. Tell me about the Broncos then.
Yeah.
Our last AFC draft. I think.
Yep. So the Broncos picked up Russell Wilson this offseason. And then in their draft, their first pick wasn't until the second round. Later in the second round, they picked up Nick Bonito, the offensive linebacker from Oklahoma. They added, let's see,
You just called him an offensive linebacker.
Oh, what?
You said offensive linebacker. I feel like he's an edge rusher, but I feel like you meant outside linebacker.
I did,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to read my list and do two things at once because anyway, outside linebacker from Oklahoma.
One of those good old offensive linebackers.
Exactly, definitely. They took 2 skill position players, tight end in the 3rd round and a wide receiver in the 5th. Greg. It's such a
Greg
such a
Dulcich. I like
such
Greg. I just drafted Greg in a rookie draft. Pretty pumped about Greg.
Nice.
They added stretcher. Greg is.
I honestly don't even know who he is. I don't even know who
Greg.
He is. I understand he's Greg, but I didn't watch
UCLA. He's a tight end. It's Greg.
I know, but I don't watch UCLA games. Anyway, they had a little bit of depth to cornerback. I don't really have many thoughts on this. My thoughts Russell Wilson, basically.
No, I think they had a really solid draft. I think Benito was really good value. I think that he was a really solid player, and he's probably going to have a role pretty early on. We already know I like Greg as a field stretcher. He pairs well with Alberto, which I think low key this might tell us a little bit of what they think about Albert Albuquerque. I can't do it. Albert. A year ago I could say his name perfectly. Alberto. Shoot, never mind. Whatever. They got. I will say they have a lot of weird names. Ayoma Uwazrik, Delarin Turner Yell. His last name is Turner Yell. That's awesome. Montreal Washington, Luke Wattenberg, Matt Henningsen, and Fayon Hicks. That's a solid. You're throwing Greg and Nick Bonito, Damari Mathis. That's a great draft in terms of names.
It's a good name.
But either way, I think it was a really solid draft. I think nothing too crazy, but I do think, especially considering that they were able to pick up Russell Wilson, I give them a thumbs up from me.
I agree. Like I said, I don't have many thoughts because it's good. It's fine. It's safe, basic, good floors. That's that. Yeah, that's
that is that.
So I don't think we picked winners for the divisions in all of them. In the North, we both picked the Ravens as the winner, I believe. Yep.
Yeah, East was the Jets.
The Jets. South, we didn't pick the last two. So the South
is the Jaguars.
Sure.
It's not the Jaguars. It's probably the
Colts?
Texans.
Okay. I might go with the Colts. I think the Colts.
Yeah, Colts.
Raymond in the 3rd is going to be a great thing.
I'm going to give the tie to the Texans because they had 2 first-rounders and the Colts didn't have any.
Okay. I like that. So that's a good tiebreaker. Works for us. And in the West, your winner?
The Chargers. Broncos. I'm going to give it to the Broncos.
Don't sound too confident. I'm going to give it to the Chargers.
I'll give it to the Broncos.
We were even all last week, so we only had 2 disagreements in all of the divisions, and it was those 2. Anyway, lots of fun stuff happening. Free agency's already spinning. A lot of these players have signed their contracts already. All in all, who do you think is the best team out of the entire AFC? Like, not team, best draft is what I meant.
Probably the Ravens. Hard to argue with that.
I'm torn.
Yeah, probably the Ravens. It's the Ravens or the Jets.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ravens had 6 fourth-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
It really felt like I'm playing Madden. Like I used to love getting those mid-round picks. I don't know, it's probably the Ravens. I don't like that they gave away Marquise Brown. I'm not gonna lie, but
I agree. But they are, like we said earlier, they have a lot of interest in
Jarvis Landry.
What's his face? Jarvis Landry from the Browns. Too many names. Yeah. Anything else to add before we start to wrap it up? Do you know you sent me that video the other day, and
did you watch it?
I did watch it, and I thought it was something was going to happen, and nothing ever.
No, nothing ever happens. That's the best part. Yeah.
I was like, okay,
so
now
a little backstory. If you're over the age of like 18, go look, or probably like 14. I don't know what the age rating is. Go look up Too Many Cooks on YouTube if you've never watched it. So Adult Swim aired that on like its own time slot without telling anyone what it was. So people thought it was like the intro to a new show. But then the intro just kept going.
And then it would like pause for a second and you'd be like, finally. And then it would start all over again. It kept going and then it deteriorated into, So my friend, that has been his fantasy team name for like the last, like basically as long as I've known him. It's always Too Many Cooks. Does he draft all the cooks? Because this is why the conversation started, was because me, you, and Blake were having a Twitter conversation. He said one of the cooks, and you said no, he meant this Jared Cook, and I said no, he meant Dalvin Cook. So does he draft all the cooks?
The first time he did it was because he had like Brandon Cooks and Dalvin Cook or something, maybe. I don't know. I don't know the timing of it. Might have been Jared Cook and Brandon Cooks based on age. He hasn't since then, but he tries to always have one cook or cooks on his team.
I support it then. I think you have to at least try to have one of the cooks on a team named
Too Many Cooks. Too many cooks, too many cooks.
And we could keep this going for as long as you'd like, because this literally never ends.
It's like a 13-minute video. It's great.
It really is. Anyway,
it's fantastic.
Why don't you tell us where we can find you, Michael?
You can.
I didn't
find
like that.
Me.
I just called you Michael. Ew.
I prefer it. You can find me. I could go so many ways with this. In reality, it's probably crying in my shower after the Sixers win Game 6, but then lose Game 7 after giving us hope again. I truly feel like Hawkeye in Endgame. If I watch
tomorrow and they end up winning, I think you might kidnap me and make me watch.
Ashley, it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't. The Sixers, we exist to hurt the fans. Like, that is why the Sixers, they exist to hurt us. They exist to hurt us.
It's like it's Philly fans, like one of the Dante circles for Phillies fans is the Sixers. We
won a Super Bowl and we're still paying for it. That's the reality. Someone sold their soul. And this is what we're getting.
Who was it? Who sold their soul?
All of Philadelphia. We all did it individually. We all said we will give anything, and now we're giving it, and we're upset about it.
It's all the bad karma from
also Nikola Jokic should not be the MVP. He's a fraud, and VORP is a stupid thing, and it's stupid, and Joel Embiid is still playing, which Nikola Jokic has not been this week in the past 2 years. So suck it, city of Denver. Your air sucks. You don't have any, and you still can't win in the playoffs. Your center sucks, and he's not as good as Joel Embiid, who's playing better than him with a mask on and a broken face. All right, I'm good now. You can find me on Twitter. I don't care. At MPDuncan75. Don't follow me. You're just gonna get shit like this about the Sixers this week.
If you enjoy ADHD rants, you can find us here.
I just want basketball season to be over. I just want the pain to end.
Yeah. It would just be better for them to lose tomorrow and like not give you any.
No, it wouldn't. It really wouldn't. There's no good scenario here.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm a New York fan. We don't win anything lately. Is what it is.
But at least you don't have hope.
See, hope but they like give me a little bit of hope every year.
That's your own damn fault.
One of the teams.
That's your own damn fault, Ashley.
I know it is.
They do nothing to deserve your hope.
I know. Speaking of, I need to go buy my Kayvon Thibodeau jersey. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's and Ashley. You can find us both here on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You could find both of us and all of the Undroppables on the Undroppables exclusive Patreon channels in our Discord, which you can get by going to patreon.com/theundroppables. And you can listen to us whenever you like on any streaming platform that you get your podcasts from. And that's that. I think next week we might talk a little bit about free agency so far, who's still left in the market, and
If I'm alive
whatever else.
and here.
True. Anyways, signing off. See you later.
Trust the process.
Yeah.